Hi there, I'm Scott, and this channel is about becoming a Renaissance person. There are a lot of things I could be talking about right now in that vein, but the most important is climate change. What's the purpose of creating a channel to talk about Renaissance or anything else if the world is on fire, which currently, literally it is in certain places because of climate change. We as individuals need to grow and expand and get smarter very quickly. We need to grow, we need to evolve, we need to change the paradigms of what we think our role is in a democracy. And we need to be vocal to get things like real climate change action passed. And we as a country, or as citizens of America, and the same is true of whatever your home country happens to be, we all need to be more involved. And I know that it's easy, especially in a representative democracy such as the United States, for people to become complacent, for us to not necessarily know what's happening in the world around us. For example, did you know that the temperatures are rising faster than we anticipated in a lot of places? That most of the global south and the southern hemisphere in general are currently in winter, and their wintertime temperatures in some cases are higher than their summertime temperatures. Billions of people the world over are impacted right now by climate change. This isn't something that's going to happen in the future. It will get worse in the future if we don't act, but it's happening now. And these people in the global south and in the southern hemisphere, or wherever you are impacted by climate change and global warming, we owe it to them to care about their environment and their day-to-day life. What we do impacts everyone, and we need to be cognizant of that. We need to be aware of that. We need to think within that filter and become better people. I'm not saying that some of us aren't already, but for those who could do more, should. And I think that's on all of us, to become better people. And not just over climate change, but social justice and civil rights and the things that we as humans hold dear, no matter where we were born or what country we hail from or what our passport says. These things impact us all. We're all the human race. We're all the same species. We're all related. And here are my steps for us to grow and expand and ascend out of the situation and morass that we currently find ourselves in. The first is education. We all need to understand what's happening, not only in our own world, but the world around us, the entire planet. Like what I was saying about people in the southern hemisphere. If you didn't know that temperatures are rising there, then you need to spend more time reading the newspaper or watching the news on TV or the radio or YouTube. Whatever channels you end up doing, you have to find avenues to learn and grow and explore. And we all need to dedicate a certain amount of time every day and every week to learning. We expect the same from our children and from our elementary and college students. Why wouldn't we expect the same from ourselves? And I know it's difficult, especially if you have 3 jobs and a family and are possibly caring for a loved one or friend. That's one of the reasons why it is so important. The people in power are hoping that we don't educate ourselves, that we don't stay up on the news, that we don't understand what's happening around us. It works to their narrative because they're the ones who have the money and they're the ones who are doing the talking points and saying it across different channels. We need to be as informed and as educated as we possibly can to combat those lies and to understand what is bread and circuses and what isn't. I could pick any number of things, but most recently the right, for better for worse, are up in arms over the Barbie movie, thinking it's Chinese propaganda. My point is that these conversations only dilute and don't really raise the bar on education. They don't teach us anything. They don't teach us how to think and to understand what's happening in the world around us. These are nothing more than bread and circuses. The more you end up spending your time learning about the Barbie movie, the less you end up learning about the temperatures in the southern hemisphere in their winter. We only have a finite amount of time and can only spend it doing so many certain things. We need to get away from the culture wars, and we need to educate ourselves on the real issues that are confronting all of us and every species on this planet. We also have to learn to question what we believe. And again, going through that filter, is what I'm telling you your truth? If it isn't, am I telling you a fallacy or a falsehood or an out-and-out lie? Or am I telling you something that you believe in? And am I telling you things that you can discern for yourself and source for yourself? In the case of climate change, yes, majority, 90% of all the scientists out there are saying the same thing. So if someone is telling you something like climate change isn't real, you have to know to be able to source that. You have to be able to counter lies with the truth. It's the only way we can win this argument. And to that point, we have to be willing to have these conversations with people. Most recently, I read the findings of an NPR and Marist survey that said that somewhere between 51 and 53% of Americans believe that climate change is so important that it should take precedence over everything else, including the economy, even if that means that the economy will suffer because of climate change. But we need to be able to have these conversations and talk to others so that they understand our views and we understand theirs. If we're not able to talk about climate change, we're never going to go and pass the legislation and international agreements to be able to get this solved. We have to be willing to talk to people and try to convince them of our point. And we will be able to do that with the education that we have afforded ourselves. And we have to do it in a clear and concise manner. Probably the easiest way to talk to people is by telling stories. True stories that, again, can be sourced of how people were actually being impacted by climate change. Whether that is someone drowning in the Mediterranean escaping heat, or someone in Vancouver losing their home to a wildfire, or someone else being flooded out of their home or their job. We have to have and understand the plight of others, and we need to be able to express that in a story format to others to help them learn about the issue. Other ways we can do that is by joining organizations and help advocate for organizations and help donate to organizations that believe the same things that we are. Whether that is donating to Sierra Club or Rainforest Alliance or the World Wildlife Fund, we need to find organizations and be active in them. We also have to be willing to speak our truth to our politicians and to radio talk show hosts and to the opinion columns of newspapers or the equivalent. We need to create videos on the topic and put them on YouTube or other channels. We need to do this. We all need to do this, and we need to do it now before it's too late. We've been saying that climate change and climate action needs to be done now since the 50s, really. I remember when I was in college, one of the first meetings I ended up going to was for our Earth Day organization on campus. And I remember the light, the spark in people's souls and in their minds and how important this topic was to them at that point. And here we are 20, 30 years later, and we're still having the same conversations with the same imperatives, the same pleading nature saying that we need to take care of this now. But we do. And for some, honestly, in some species out there, it might already be too late. Even if we take no further action, even if the world's temperature only rises by 1.5 degrees Celsius, it is going to be too late for some places and some people. In some species. We have to mitigate the worst of the looming impacts, and we have to do it today. And we all have to be a lot more civically minded than we currently are. We have to be willing to, as I mentioned earlier, call or write or email or otherwise contact politicians and our representatives locally and nationally. And we have to know what these politicians vote for. We have to know what their voting records are. And we have to be willing to vote for people that support our views. And in today's polarized climate, that really only means voting in a country like America for Democrats or Social Democrats or your Green Party. We have to decide what's important to us, and we have to fight for it. And above and beyond that, we have to be willing to donate both our time and our monies, if we're able, to these candidates. And if we don't have a candidate who believes in things like the Green New Deal, we have to vote these people out of office and vote for one who does. This is the dawning of the age of Aquarius. This is the dawning of a renaissance of human potential and creativity and new ideas. This is the dawning of the 21st century. This is the first day of the rest of the world. If we miss this historic opportunity, this once-in-a-generation event, if we cannot get climate change under control now, you've probably heard of the Greatest Generation, those wartime men and women who sacrificed all to make sure that the Nazis were defeated. Most generations don't have such a profound event in their lives like that. And you have to remember, these people also battled against the Spanish flu and the Great Depression. Think about how much that generation has changed just within the span of 10 or 20 years of everything that was happening to them, and how venerated they are for standing up for what they believed in and fighting against fascism. If we can't fight against fascism today, if we can't tell truth to power today, if we can't fight climate change today, how will future generations judge us? Thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe. Take care.